Welcome along to the transfer show. Loads coming up. News of players in great demand and others whose clubs are making it quite clear they're surplus to requirement. We want to talk Alexander Isak. There is Keith. Keith, is Isak still on the naughty step?
Yeah, Mike, sorry, busy. I know it looks quiet here at St James's Park, but it's been a while since I'm here, so catching up with people, so that's why maybe you couldn't quite get me earlier. Is Isak still in the naughty step? I think he probably will be for some while. Will he play for Newcastle United again? I think there's a huge question mark over that. Newcastle, of course, stressed that they will not allow him to leave until they get an adequate replacement. They thought that Benjamin Sesko was that man, which is why they made such a big offer to RB Leipzig for his services, 80 million euros plus add-ons, but of course that was not so much turned down. It was accepted by the club, but turned down by the player, who of course travelled to Manchester instead to finalise a move to Manchester United. So look, I think if Newcastle had managed to get Sesko in, it would have allowed Alexander Isak to leave. But of course, without that replacement in, it leaves them struggling a little bit with just over 3 weeks of the transfer window to go. Look, I'm not expecting Isak to play tonight against Espanyol, nor either tomorrow against Atletico Madrid. And as I touched on earlier, I think there's a big question mark over whether he plays for Newcastle United again. And I think it was really noticeable the other day in midweek when Eddie Howe arranged a team bonding session. All the squads were invited, all their families, the partners, children, all invited to that after training on Wednesday afternoon. Everyone invited apart from Alexander Isak, which I think was telling of the situation. And it was a really interesting moment, the juxtaposition of Isak arriving just as the rest of the players were leaving from that team bonding session. I think kind of told the story to that, Mike. So look, it's not the last we've heard of it. We still need Liverpool to come to the table with another bid, but I think if they do and they raise their bid from the last one, coupled with Newcastle having a replacement in, there is a real chance Alexander Isak can go before the end of the transfer window.
Keith, give us an idea of how Newcastle fans are reacting to the window the club's having.
Yeah, look, Mike, I think they're pretty frustrated, very frustrated, actually. I can see them on social media bumping a lot of the Newcastle United fans in the street, and this was the window where they were supposed to strengthen. They just won their first trophy in 70 years. They had Champions League to come. They'd held back in the last couple of transfer windows to ensure that this was the transfer window where they had a real go, and they were hoping to bring in a right winger, a central defender, a central midfielder and a striker. But the transfer window has been dominated by the Alexander Isak situation and the fact that he is still here at the club and hasn't moved on to Liverpool yet. So you speak to any Newcastle United supporter, and this was the window they wanted to strengthen. They were excited about. It's not gone that way, and I think for them it's difficult because they probably feel they're a bit of a laughing stock at the moment, because you look at the players who they've missed out on, and there's a number of them now they've just been pipped at the post by the likes of Chelsea or Manchester United or Liverpool. And I think the two that probably hurt the most are Sesko to Manchester United, because Newcastle got right down to the end, and also Ekitike to Liverpool, because it's a player they've tried to sign twice now. And for them, it's just really disappointing that they're here with just 3 weeks of the window to go and they still need to sign 4 players. And it feels as though the options to replace Alexander Isak are getting less and less. So it's not what they wanted. However, the positive in all this is there is still money for them to spend in this transfer window. And if they can manage to get 3 or 4 players in between now and the closure of the transfer window at the end of August, it gives them hope and something to look forward to for the season. And you know what it's like with football fans, they're happy if they're signing players. So Eddie Howe and his recruitment staff here will be working so busy behind the scenes to try and bring in those faces to give them a fighting chance this season, because remember, it's not just the Premier League, but they've also got the Champions League to contend with first. But before then, a couple of pre-season friendlies to dust off the cobwebs ahead of the new season. Espanyol tonight here at St James's Park, Atletico Madrid tomorrow. I expect Eddie Howe to switch it up and give all his players, his first team players, as many minutes as possible.
Darwin Núñez, he said, a chance he's going. Are they clearing the decks for Alexander Isak?
Well, what we do know is that Liverpool are in the market for attacking players, and we also know that they've made a bid for Alexander Isak, which was rejected. But what we also know is from Newcastle's stance is they're not doing any business with anyone, Liverpool or anyone, until they have replacements in the door, which we thought maybe would be Benjamin Sesko. Didn't happen, so Newcastle were looking at other targets. So this isn't going to go away. But when we understand that Liverpool are looking at attacking options, if there's other ones apart from Isak, we will wait and see. But do a club walk away when they put that much money in, that big bid into one player? Do they walk away after one failed bid? Not so sure.
No, indeed. Is there a danger for Liverpool that Arne Slot could just have if he brings in Isak, he's just got all his toys at once, and he might actually make changes when he doesn't need to because they won the league so easily last season?
Well, some families let kids open presents before Christmas morning, don't they? And I think, on the opening day of the season, Arne Slot's going to have a lot of new players. It's already going to be a new look Liverpool side anyway. But the key for me, what he starts the season with and what he starts post-deadline day with. And so many clubs need to do plenty of business. There'll be some clubs who are going into next week thinking, do you know what? We're not too bad. And that's one of them.
Well, hello there. Welcome along to the Transfer Show. The Premier League season is 1 week away. Deadline day is September the 1st. Plenty of business to be done. Joining me to discuss it all is Michael Bridge. We know about Alexander Isak's desire to join Liverpool and Newcastle's own efforts to bring players in. Johan Wissa has been a target for weeks, but with no deal yet. Is there an air of desperation around the club's summer window?
That word desperate is where Newcastle are at. Of course, they've got the issues with Alexander Isak. He won't feature here tonight against Espanyol, nor tomorrow in the friendly against Atletico Madrid. As we know, he's been training on his own. And of course, that leaves Newcastle with just one striker in their ranks, and it's young 21-year-old William Asula. So if Isak was to go, Newcastle need two, so it would be Wissa and one more. But so far, any move for Wissa has been protracted. It's been difficult for them to agree a deal with Brentford. I think one, because Brentford have lost a number of players themselves this summer already, and two, Newcastle have been unable to agree a fee.
Yeah, that was Keith Downey there at St James's Park talking about Newcastle's difficult window. Mike, I'm going to come to you in a moment to speak about just that. But just on Johan Wissa, there have been developments today, and that is the representatives of the Brentford forward, Johan Wissa, are in London. They hope that Brentford and Newcastle can strike a deal for the striker. There are likely to be developments one way or the other after the weekend. We are told that Newcastle are ready to move quickly for Johan Wissa once Brentford can secure a replacement. Now, Brentford are interested in a number of forwards to replace Wissa, but also need, of course, to replace Brian Mbeumo, who went to Manchester United. They've earmarked Bournemouth's Dango Utara as a replacement for Mbeumo. There's all sorts of talk about interest in Ipswich Town's Omari Hutchinson as well. They've already gone in for Wissa, remember, £25 million. That was rejected. But Wissa, significantly, has made it clear over and over again he wants to leave, he wants to join Newcastle, and he's ready to travel as soon as he's given the green light. Alexander Isak continues to hang over the rest of their window because it's almost got to a point where do they need to start spending this money in the knowledge that at some point Isak might be leaving the football club?
Well, I think, as Keith has been saying all week, they need players alongside Isak and they need more. I keep going back to it. The European campaign for all these clubs, it's going to be relentless. And when Newcastle did get in the Champions League last time, their league form suffered, and that season they missed out on Europe. So it's going to be relentless for clubs like Newcastle. So they're going to need more. Wissa clearly wants to go to the football club, and then they need one more. That's striker.
Darwin Nunez from Anfield to Saudi, but will it go through? We'll hear from Arne Slot next. There's news from every Premier League club, and there's that sports lawyer for you.